Welcome to Got It Right. This is Will Sanchez. My special guest tonight is David Kleckner. He runs for the New York Flyers. I first met Dave back in 2006 when we were both on the Community Board 8. We happened to be co-secretaries. I can tell you this, it was a lot of fun having Dave next to me on co-secretary. Dave has a gift for words. He was the one that came up with the name Running with Joy when I was struggling to find a title for my short story about Joy Johnson. I'm delighted to have Dave Kleckner as a guest.
Thanks, Will.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Dave, we got a lot of things to cover.
All right.
So let's get started by sharing with us a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born? And something about growing up.
I was born and raised, or grew up in Queens, New York, right here in New York. As a kid, I was always physically active, playing baseball, actually softball, for hours and hours with my next-door neighbor, dreaming of one day playing for the Mets, being like Tom Seaver and pitching for them, like, you know, my idol. Unfortunately, I didn't have any talent or much coordination or athletic ability. I played Little League Baseball. I was much better at getting hit by pitches than actually getting base hits. But it didn't deter me. In college, I'd go to the weight room with my friends and we'd work out. And we'd also, you know, play basketball sometimes, you know, through college. And after college, did some bicycle riding, gym membership, would go to the gym, do spinning classes when they first came out.
Okay, this sounds like you've always active throughout your whole life.
I have been active, but was never felt I had a talent, but I was always active.
But what encouraged you that? Your parents, because most kids aren't active.
It was something I enjoyed. I mean, I also enjoyed watching TV, and I remember my mom pushing me to go outside when I was, you know, happily watching old I Love Lucy reruns.
But it sounds like the running, because you're a well-known runner with the Flyers, sounds like that came later in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't take up running until 2006, actually. And what had happened, I mean, every year I would see the marathon go by, and I'd think, oh, I'd see these people running by, and like, that doesn't look so hard. And then I'd go and run a couple blocks. I was like, oh, man. And never followed up on it. And then one day, watched the marathon go by with my son, who was then about 6 years old. This was in 2006. And he said, Daddy, you should run the marathon. And I said, okay. And I decided, you know, I should keep my word and give running a shot again. And that Thanksgiving, I did some running over that Thanksgiving break and discovered that there was this New York Roadrunners group that had races. And I thought, why not run a race? So I ran 3 races that fall, or winter, in December, of increasing distance, and just had a blast, loved doing it. But the real key that got me to learn how to run and kept me running was I joined Team for Kids, which is a program of New York Roadrunners. The main reason in my mind was because that would allow me to be able to run the New York City Marathon that year in 2007, because you get guaranteed entry when you run for an authorized charity running group. And little did I know how much more I would get from joining Team for Kids than just that guaranteed entry into the marathon.
Right.
And through them, there was an extensive training program, a great coach. I learned how to train, how to run, how to build up my mileage gradually. This is Coach Frank. He used to dress up as a gecko to cheer us on.
Really?
There's always a ton of team spirit within Team for Kids. I made some amazing friends. It was a wonderful bonding experience. And that was really what I think hooked me, was the bonding with the other runners, the camaraderie, the excitement of running further each time and building up to marathon day, and all the support and encouragement that I received from Team for Kids. It hooked me, and I stuck with it. Ran my first marathon in fall of 2007. He came out with my wife and my daughter, and they cheered me on, and I finished my marathon and wanted more and kept going.
All right, so what did you do next?
Well, after that, I continued my running and my training. I remember there was a New York Roadrunners long training run that summer, and they had pace group leaders. And it was a runner who we would follow behind, and they would run a particular pace. And they actually were members of the running club that I ended up joining later, the New York Flyers. I didn't realize that at the time, but I heard them talking about how they wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, and I didn't know what that meant. Discovered that the Boston Marathon was kind of this big deal in the running marathon community, both because it's long storied history. It's I now know the longest continuous marathon in the country, and because they have a qualifying standard that you have to meet that's age group specific, and it's not an easy standard to meet. And I decided I wanted to achieve that and get to run the Boston Marathon. So I continued my running and ratcheted up my training.
Did you join the Flyers at that point?
And I had not yet joined the New York Flyers, but at the time my focus was, I just love running, I loved the races, and I really wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And ran the New Jersey Marathon with that goal in mind. And I actually did qualify by 6 seconds.
Wow. 6 seconds is plenty.
So,
and that was your second marathon.
So that was my second.
Tell us about the Flyers.
I decided I didn't want to continue fundraising to run the New York City Marathon. And I was aware that there were other ways to qualify for the marathon. And while I continue to appreciate and be grateful for Team for Kids, I was aware that there were running clubs out there, and I wanted to explore the possibility of joining a running club. And so that's where I focused a lot of my running attention since then, before returning back to get involved in Team for Kids, which I'd love to talk about later. But since 2008 and through the present, I remain a member of the New York Flyers. And there are many running clubs throughout the city, many great running clubs. What first caught my eye with the Flyers, I went to their website, and I was impressed with that. There was all sorts of information about great things that you could do with the Flyers. Group runs. I saw that they had it was in their bylaws, there was a mention about community service, and that's always been an important area for me in my life. And I liked that here's a running club that had community service in mind. I think that was a big hook for me.
I think one of the things they do every year, they go out and help clean up Central Park.
Yeah, there's one of the Flyers, her name's Heather, started this up before I became a Flyer, and several times a year worked with the Central Park Conservancy to schedule dates when Flyers would come out and volunteer and do what was asked of the Flyers in Central Park, from raking to planting and pruning. And Heather then decided it would be nice to have a co-leader, and so since I don't know, a couple of years after that, I've been co-leading those events with Heather. We have a running blog. I do oversee that, and I look to have it cover a whole really broad range of areas of what I like to think is of interest to Flyer members, but also with the intent of helping to bring us together as a group, as a community, even more so than we already are. So I'll do things like invite relatively new members who seem particularly interested in wanting to become active in the Flyers to write about themselves and to talk about why they joined the Flyers and what their background is. And it's a way for existing Flyer members to get to know new members, and for new members to kind of get themselves seen within the Flyers. And I do the same thing as well with more veteran Flyers, so that people can kind of get to know other aspects of the lives of members that maybe doesn't come out when we're on a group run. But the blog also covers things like training and injury prevention. There's a great physical therapy group, Finish Line Physical Therapy. They've been kind enough to provide a series of write-ups for the blog, and so that's been great. We have blog posts about races. We have posts about Flyers who run with their kids, Flyers who run with their parents, Flyers who run with their pets. So kind of the family aspect of it. There was a blog post just about Flyers' pets, with photos of pets.
Well, in fact, I think you're a proud papa of 2 or 3 cats.
I have 3 cats at home. Yeah, so I'm a pet lover myself. We're a large club, And it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of things, I think, because we are a large club. So we have many free group runs, early morning runs, evening runs, weekend runs, and they're mainly social, friendly runs. People run at different paces and run together, and it's an opportunity to run with friends. We have special runs. Most of the runs, the weekly runs that come every week are inside Central Park. But we also like to do runs outside of Central Park, and that's been ramped up this year with some additional long training runs outside of Central Park.
Yes, I see. I've seen you guys now in the Bronx.
Yeah, we have a Van Cortlandt Park long training run coming up. There was a recent run to the Little Red Lighthouse up the west side. Along the Hudson River. There's one coming up this Saturday down the other direction to Battery Park. We have runs that we've been doing for some years now. A run to over the George Washington Bridge and along the Palisades. That's very popular. An extremely popular group of runs is we call the Three Bridges Run, which leaves Manhattan. We run over the Brooklyn Bridge, the Palisades Bridge, back into Manhattan through the 59th Street Bridge. We work that in towards near the end of the marathon training season, and we have options where people can run 12, 16, or 20-mile runs on that. So there's that. We have a coach, and we have coached speed work opportunities.
Sounds like you got more than one coach. Keep all these people happy.
Well, most of the runs are totally volunteer and organized and led by volunteers. But in addition, we do have for our speed work and for our marathon training, we have a paid coach. And
is Toby still involved?
Toby Tanzer is very involved still in the running community and with Shoe for Africa, building a hospital in Kenya, which is fantastic.
I remember seeing him doing speed work with you guys down at the East Side track. Yeah,
our current coach now, Toby, decided to step down from being Flyers head coach and to pursue his other pursuits. And Brian Rossetti from the Run Smart Project is now our head coach. And he does both a marathon training program and also a program throughout the year that we call Speed Pass. And they're both focused on group speedwork sessions as well as training, personalized training from him throughout the year.
The really big event, the gala, your year-end gala? Or?
Of course, yeah. I think like many clubs, we have an annual event, and we have an awards gala. It's fantastic. It's an opportunity for people to get dressed up. We're used to always seeing each other all sweaty in our shorts and T-shirts or our running singlets. But here, people like to typically get dressed up in gowns and even some tuxedos. And we give out awards. Many of them are for running achievements, but many of them are for things that go beyond running, such as for team spirit and things that pertain to the camaraderie within the Flyers.
I think you've been the master of ceremonies a few times at the gala.
I was once the co-master of ceremonies. Fortunately, my other co-MC, Debbie, has lots of charm and charisma. So,
you have a way with words. I think people appreciate your dry humor.
I think we made a good team. I think it's good to go beyond one's comfort zone in all areas of life, whether it be running or other things.
But you mentioned you qualified for Boston, and so have you done Boston a few times then?
Yeah, I just ran the Boston Marathon this past Monday, so I've actually been able to qualify each year since that first one. So
08, 09?
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,
gosh,
so 7 years.
So tell us about this one recently was memorable because I think you PR'd, right?
It happened to be my fastest Boston Marathon, so I was excited about that.
Boston, you mean what's the PR overall, or is it?
No, actually, it was my fastest Boston Marathon. It was my fastest ever marathon. I've run about 20 marathons.
Okay, and now Boston's very, very tough to do in terms of PRs. So what was there any lessons learned from your prior 19 marathons that made a difference?
Well, we all know when you go to run Boston, the first thing everyone else tells you is don't go out too fast because it starts out, the course has a lot of downhill running during the early miles and then some very steep hills toward the latter miles, and including the famous Heartbreak Hill. So one needs to run the course strategically and not burn out early on.
And the weather wasn't necessarily ideal.
It was rainy and it was cool out. It was fine though. I was comfortable running. It didn't start raining particularly hard till about mile 3, and by then focused on the race. And I think the cool weather probably was a help, and the rain, I was kind of aware of it, but it didn't.
Okay. And you weren't overdressed, you were dressed right?
No, I just wore my shorts and my singlet, and it seemed just about right. Yeah.
All right. And what was your nutrition like on the course?
You know, I have a pretty iron stomach, so I like to take gels during the race to keep me going. I actually had less than usual. You know, some people gag when they hear how many that I take. Sometimes I'll take 8 of these very kind of sugary gels. Not something I would like to take in real life. I try to be nutritious. I try to cut back. I think I only took 6 of them for this race. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
I guess you took them at the right time with a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Before the show started, you mentioned that you purposely kept on the 90 beats per second. I mean, 90 beats per minute. Did you use a special instrument or anything like that?
Yeah, you know, I'd used in the past, and I decided to bring with me again. I have a little metronome that I stuck on the back of my wristwatch, and helps to keep my stride at an even pace for efficient running. Okay. So it's about it's 180 beats per minute.
Personally, I think that probably helped you a lot because it does maximize efficiency.
There's always a lot of confounding factors. You know, I've done other things as well that maybe impacted my performance. But I was happy with how it went. It's not, you know.
I mentioned that you and I were on the community board.
Yes.
But recently, you retired from the community board, and I think you took on a whole new career. Tell us about that changeover.
Yeah, I did. I've changed my career path. I worked for the city for many years and have worked in public service really my whole life in some shape or form. I got an environmental policy master's degree, and then worked in the city's recycling program for a number of years, and that related to my environmental interests. Moved on to the City Department of Design and Construction. Now that my kids are bigger, and my daughter is about to go off to college, and our son is in high school, I felt that it was a good time for me to kind of take stock of where I was with my career, and you know, was there something that maybe I'd rather be doing? And what had happened was about a little over a year ago, I reacquainted myself with Team for Kids. They were maybe a little bit out of sight, but never out of mind. And I became a mentor with the Team for Kids marathon training program, working with the runners who were training for their adults, you know, trained for the New York City Marathon. The way Team for Kids works is it's a program of New York road runners, and adults will run the New York City Marathon, or the New York City Half Marathon, the Brooklyn Half Marathon, also the Berlin, Chicago Marathon with Team for Kids.
I didn't know about Berlin and Chicago.
Yes, to gain entry into those races. But what's particularly important here is the funds that they raise then get used for these fantastic programs in underserved communities, in schools, as well as in community centers, to get kids involved in running. They have a Mighty Milers program that's geared for the younger kids, and a Young Runners program that's geared for older kids, with the focus of bringing healthy lifestyles, fitness, and running into the lives of children. It's a wonderful program, and it reinvigorated me as well, because as a mentor, I was working with people who, for the most part, were running their first marathon, and it reminded me of what that was like.
Yeah.
And I saw what the things that they were having questions about, and what folks were nervous about and excited about. And you know, every time they went out for a long run, it was often the longest they'd ever run, and then the next week it would be the longest they'd ever run again. And the excitement is very contagious, and the camaraderie that gets built, watching that and seeing how friendships develop. Even now, there was a Facebook page for the Team for Kids runners who ran for last year's marathon, and they're all still staying in touch with each other through an alumni Facebook page. And it's you know, friends for life, I think. It was a wonderful experience for me mentoring with them. And
I like running with Team for Kids because running has been a tool that I've used to change my life and to regain control of who I am.
I love running with the team. I love it, I love it, I love it. Everything that I don't have as a runner, my team has for me.
My view, running is like life. What you put into it is what you get out of it.
It's given my life a wonderful balance. I've made so many lifelong friends. They're the people that you want to have in your life.
I think that Team for Kids is a great charity team to join, and I encourage others to join in the movement to empower young people to have running programs everywhere they go.
You know, what I've been finding with Team for Kids as a mentor and a coach is what I found out back in 2007 when I first ran with Team for Kids, is that I think, you know, one of the greatest things about being a Team for Kids runner is the friendships and the camaraderie and the closeness that people develop, and the pride and the achievements of runners. And the fitness that runners gain. For example, one runner friend of mine now, Ira Paul, has lost over 100 pounds since, I believe, since he's taken up running, and he's still running with Team for Kids. He's going to be a mentor this year. And just to see the friendships developing among the runners and the support that they give each other and the pride that they have in themselves and each other, and how it makes, I think, people feel more confident about themselves and realize that, you know, really anybody can run. I'm a guide with a group, when I can, Achilles International, disabled athletes, and they're out there running. People with all sorts of ailments. There was someone who finished the Boston Marathon with muscular dystrophy, finished at 4 a.m. In the morning, the following morning.
There was in a new paper yesterday.
About that. Yeah. So it's a wonderful sport, and it's accessible to anybody. You know, we don't all need to run marathons when we're runners, but it is a great thing. And I just actually saw an article that one of my friends on the New York Flyers shared on Flyers Facebook, that was published in the Atlantic Monthly, that shows that about 50% of marathon runners, both male and female, are 40 years of age and older. So it's never too late. Yes, it's never too late to get started with running. I'm very much enjoying coaching, and that got me thinking how much I enjoy helping others with their fitness and meeting their goals, and that maybe this is something I could pursue not just with running, but in other areas. And so I, in addition to coaching for Team for Kids, I decided to get certified as a personal trainer. And I did that, and I began working with my runner friends at the Flyers, and started to give them strength training and personal training assistance for free, just to
testing the water, so to speak.
To see if it's something that I really enjoy doing. And I liked that so much that as we'd started talking about, I decided I wanted to follow what I felt was really my passion at this point in my life, which is running and fitness, and sharing that with others and helping others to attain their goals in their health and fitness life. And so I left my job at the City of New York after over 20 years working for the city. Now I work for New York Sports Club, Lexington Avenue and East 86th Street. And it's a fantastic club. Other trainers there are outstanding, so I'm learning from them. I'm enjoying meeting and beginning to work with members at the club there. And so I've combined the running coaching with the personal training, and while I talked earlier about going outside one's comfort zone. This definitely is a move in that direction.
For certainly a big move to give up a long-standing job for 20 years.
And kind of in midlife, but it's something that I really want to be doing with my life right now, and so I'm going to make it work.
That's great. And your family was obviously supportive. I mean, you can't do this by yourself.
Yep, they're certainly supporting me. And
well, let's mention your son was, how old was he when you first did the marathon? 2007. He was 6.
Yeah, and it's been great.
And now he's...
Yeah, he first inspired me, I'd say, to get involved in running. And I was careful not to push him with running because, you know, when a parent pushes their child, they're often likely to get pushed back. But I think he saw how much that I enjoyed my running, that perhaps, you know, that was one of the reasons that he decided he wanted to get involved in running. So he is a runner both on the track team and the cross-country team now at 14 years old at Columbia Prep, where he goes to school.
But you guys didn't run together.
We did. What we decided to do this year, both of us wanted to run the New York City Half Marathon. We did some long training runs together. He was in good running shape through his school running program. And during one of the runs, I asked him, you know, do you want to run with, you know, with friends or run alone? Because he's a very independent teenager, and I figured, you know, he'd want his space. But he actually said he'd like to run with me, and I thought, wow, that's wonderful. And so we ran the New York City Half Marathon from start to finish together. He wasn't sure that he could even, you know, finish the mileage. It's the furthest he had ever run or set out to run. He finished the race in under 2 hours, and he sped up as the race went along, and finished strong, and it was an exciting experience, I think, for both of us. I remember
seeing photos. He's tall. He's almost as tall as you, isn't he?
Yeah, now we're the same height, same shoe size.
And he's only 14?
And 14 years old, yeah.
So he has a little more spurt in him.
Yeah. Yes, I think Mitchell has a bright running future ahead of him if he chooses to follow it, and if he chooses other paths, that's fine as well. But for now, I'm enjoying the bonding.
Sounds like you have a great family there. In closing, what are some of your future challenges? You have enough on your plate with your personal training, with your team for kids, but are there other challenges that you're looking forward to?
Wow. Well, my daughter heads off for college in September, so the challenge of having one less child at home, I'm very excited for her to be going off to college. She'll be going to Hamilton College, upstate New York. And I'm very excited for her, but I'm sad for me. We're going to miss her. And so I think adjusting to having one of our children off and out of the house is the biggest challenge.
So Mitchell might get even more attention.
Well, he may not be so happy about that. We'll see. But he may get some more attention from us.
Well, listen, on that note, I wish you all the great successes and may all your dreams come true. Sounds like you're on a good path.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today.